Well, thank you so much, Yen, for having me, and always been a pleasure to be part of this successful event that you are running. And if you are happy, shall we get started? I'm so excited about this. Now, Hello and everyone. Thank you so much for joining me for this session, the breakout session. But I just want to applaud you for joining Yen to join this event brought to you by Sibian and also Service Automation in Framework as well. Today, I will take you to the framework and the lesson learned from building a generative AI application. So a little bit about myself. As Ian highlighted, I am the founder of Engage AI. We have 50,000 users around the world using it. And because of this experience, that building the product ourselves, but also the development and the implementation of the generative AI for our enterprise client, here are some of the framework that I have used, but equally more importantly is the lesson that we have learned that I want to share with you today. Now, before we get into that, I just want to highlight with you how important it is with the generative AI. A lot of the tech leader in the Silicon Valley and around the world believe that this is a major technological shift that we are seeing in our lifetime. It is as important as like the invention of the internet, the mobile phone, smartphone, the cloud computing. And why this is the case? Because generative AI is perhaps changing the way that we are interacting with the software. In the old day, we all have to deal and interact with software in a pre-configured way by the system designer in a point and click, enter the input in a very rigid workflow. In the world of the generative AI, we can speak with this computer and we can interact it in a very organic way, like how we speak with human. I suspect that it's just like the Iron Man, where we can speak with Jarvis to get information, to get things done, is perhaps not far away from the reality. So here is what to expect from today. Number one, the foundation framework for building and embedding generative AI into enterprise system. The insight from the real world experience, the challenges that you would face during the development process, and finally, what are the key lessons that I have learned that I want to share with you that are very important to ensure an uptick of the adoption. Now, before we start, I want to take you a concept of AI versus the embedded AI. Before the generative AI, in fact, before the generative AI coming along, we all have been doing AI for so long. We have been doing that for 10, 20 years already. Banks are using it, insurance are using it, your big tech in the Silicon Valley are using it, your large retailer are using it. What makes some of those stand out and have a large adoption and being a successful use case, especially in the big tech or some of the leading player in the traditional industry? What I observe is how they have embedded the AI. So I'm going to give you one example of what is the difference of AI and the embedded AI with a retailer and the pricing optimization. As a retailer, a lot of time, the product that you are selling are a commodity. What that basically means is the product that you are selling is no different to the product that your competitor are selling. And because of that, your price and also your market positioning, it has to be as close to your competitor as possible. So for example, the product that you have on the shelf is currently selling for $100. Your competitor, however, on the other hand, may have sold it for $120. Or potentially they may have sold it for $80. What that basically means is that there is a rule to move your price to close to $120 or maybe close to $80. Now let's just use the $120 as an example versus the $100. Now AI retailer, in this case large retailer, have been using AI to do the price optimization for a long time. The technique they will be using including price elasticity model, optimization model, but also the competitor pricing model. Competitor pricing model basically means that they scrape the data of how much the competitor are selling and then entering into their model along with the pricing elasticity model and the optimization model. It means that it will move your price from $100 to perhaps selling it for $115 because that suddenly you are adding $15, additional $15 into your margin. Now you see, and you may have heard of it in the past already, how retailers are using AI in this sort of fashion. So they are not new to the AI, right? But why one retailer have much better adoption or have much successes, it really about how much they are taking it to the next level. And this is where I want to introduce the concept of AI versus the embedded AI. For a retailer who have already implemented many of them, what they still doing is that once they have the new price of the $115 for update for that particular product on the shelf, they would share and send this to the store. The employee, the frontline employee, would have to take the data and manually go to update the paper price tag on the shelf manually. Now, as you can imagine, the manual work means there is a chance of error. Manual means there is a chance that the front line may miss it and perhaps late in time in showing all of those prices. How can you take that to another level? How can we remove all of the challenges, the friction? Is where the embedded AI is coming into the picture. One thing that you could do is implementing the electronic price tag or the e-price tag. With the e-price tag, again, you have the $115 data share and sent to the store, and within the network and the system, it will then automatically update the price tag on the e-price tag with zero manual intervention, with zero manual handling by the frontline employee. Not only you're saving so much better time that you can put your frontline to serve your customer to do other more important things, equally you are removing a bunch of friction, a bunch of error, potential human error that could in place, and that is where the automation could come into place by combining the automation to build your embedded AI. As you can imagine, this is the reason why embedded AI is much, much better. Another example is in the call center. When your call center are serving the customer, a lot of you, where you work with the cost in the enterprise, if you ever sit with your front line, you would know that how many systems they have to navigate. They have to navigate the enterprise system. They have to navigate a bunch of other systems like your CRM and other systems. So imagine when you are building the AI and have it on a separate application as a separate screen, your front line would have to navigate multiple information, multiple screens to serve your customer. The cognitive loading, it means that your front line may not be able to absorb the information by your recommendation system built by your embed AI. That is the reason why embed AI is better. And how do you embed this AI? The key about that is to embed the AI, embed the recommendation result right into your core system. That will help to reduce the number of systems and the screen and the cognitive loading that your front line would have to do. Instead, all they have to do is to choose to say whether they adopt the recommendation or not to use that recommendation as they are serving the customer. And that is the why, and these are the benefits of the embedded AI for your frontline and also for your customer, especially if you are embedding it right into the system where your customer is directly using it. So I hope this gives you a really good concept of why embedded AI is better. And this is a very, very important concept as we are building the generative AI, because generative AI have a lot of this opportunity, and that is sure you. Now, let's go into the framework of the building the Gen AI. What you are seeing is my 5-step framework to build an embedded AI for a generative AI application. So, first step, identify a business and a strong business use case. Number 2, extract, encode, and index data. Number 3, search, retrieve, and re-rank. Number 4, input result into your large language model. And number 5 is embedding the LLM generated recommendation. Yen, if that's okay, if you can run the first poll for me for the audience. I'm super curious to know how the audience are already developing the generative AI.
Perfect. I'm
So let's start
with the first poll now.
Thank you. The very first step.
Good.
Really
First poll is, what aspects of developing generative AI applications are you most interested in learning about? And you can select all that apply.
Thank you, Yan. Now, the very first step is identify business use cases. I know generative AI is hot in the news now. It's very important. It's a major technological shift. But like many other technology, it's very, very important to identify a strong business use cases rather than just jumping on the bandwagon. So the way to think about identifying the business use cases is to look at the organizational challenges. Decide what your.
I'm going to close the poll. Can I show the result?
Absolutely, go for it.
Good. 85% has given real-world experiences as the most interesting part to learn about, followed by the second answer, foundational framework.
Thank you so much, Yan. So coming back to here, what is you want to decide what is your MVP? MVP is important before, and this is where you want to take the small bang versus the big bang approach. And finally, once you have figured out all of those things, you want to work backward to identify all of those the various components. And this is where what I mean by putting all of those three things together. What is your key organization challenge? By working backward, you would then figure out who are the customer, who are the stakeholder, what are the IT systems that would be involved, where to get your data, whether it's structured or unstructured data. With all of those 4 things that are clearly identified, you will then be able to decide on your MVP. Now, step 2, let's look at this, how to put all of these things together. The first thing first is to get your data ready, whether it's coming from your data warehouse or it's coming from your SQL database or your graph database. And of course, you need the vector database from your unstructured data. The way I put it is that your internal structured data, whether it's internal or external, they were all coming from your traditional database. And whereas if your data is the unstructured, whether it's internal or external, is going into your vector database. So this is the type of the data you would be expecting. In particular, the unstructured data. I'm sure many of you are already familiar with the structured data, so we'll just focus on the unstructured data. The structured data is still important though. It plays a role in your ranking algorithm. But for the unstructured data, just think about all the notes that your frontline, your call center are taking as they speak with the customer. All the emails that you are getting, the transcription that you're getting from the phone call, the web chat, the chat application, your knowledge management, your knowledge base, your curated FAQ, all of these are a goldmine. In particular, the transcription for the phone call. It was never possible to get those data or to make a good use of utilize those data before. But with the vector database, all of these are now becoming possible. The vector database is one of the things that is underrated at the moment. A lot of people are talking about LLM, but when you want to build a really powerful a generative AI application, the vector database plays a very, very important role in storing all of your unstructured data. So here is the way of building your vector database. As you are loading all of your unstructured data into your vector database, as part of the process, you also want to generate the vector embedding. And with this vector embedding, what it basically allows the database and the technology is to figure out what are the distance and the approximation of one word versus the other word, also one topic versus the other topic. And fundamentally, that is how, when you are doing the keyword search, it will then be able to do the semantic wording search as well, but also the relevant topic. And this is the way how the vector database is making use of your unstructured data. With all of those data ready to go, one of the key aspects that you will start finding is that you will always have to do the search and retrieve the data. So that is really the one component, because whatever information that you are going to retrieve for your unstructured data, you have to go and your front line have to search for it, or you have to automate the system to search and retrieve those information. And the key part, though, a lot of those things will already be able to be done with the choice of the vector database that you have already. The harder part to implement is actually the rewrite. So search, retrieve is easy, but how you do rewrite with the additional ranking factor is where I want to share with you. With the vector database, if you search with all the keywords, it's going to come out some result. However, some of these results may not be accurate or may not as important as its own. This is where you could start combining the data from your graph database, your data warehouse, or your SQL database, and bring all of those additional information as the additional factor by combining the information from your structured data and the unstructured data together. From our experience, this is where we find that we will then be able to re-rank the importance of the right result based on the search and the retrieve process. So from our experience, I just want to reiterate again, if you want to get a really, really good ranking, I think the effort of incorporating the structural data is very, very important. Going into the next step, this is where you are controlling the model. So you could have your multi-model for your large language model from a different LLM provider. You can use this concept called model allocation to allocate different models. At the same time, you also want to have benchmarking process and the control framework in place as a guardrail. So control framework is basically where you want to bring the guardrail to make sure that the recommendation or the generated result stay within the context or stay within the allowance of the framework that you allow, ensuring that it doesn't speak nonsense, ensuring it doesn't hallucinate, and ensuring it doesn't speak something that is offending. And of course, you always want to have a model, your best performing model, as a benchmarking so that you can easily go and switch your model or allocate your model using the model allocation module. Now, with all of these in play, what you are going to do is that you want to input the search result into your large language model. So this is where how when you are searching your knowledge base or searching the email, the unstructured data, and by taking those results, then you want to combine with the prompt engineering to input into the large language model. So it will then translate the search result into the context that could be useful for your front line or could be useful your customer in answering their question, in providing that the context directly in the context that they can use to answer the customer. And finally, with all of those recommendations coming from the large language model, this is the where the embed AI is coming into place. This is where you want to then incorporate and include the output of the LLM directly into the database of your enterprise system or your ERP. Equally, it is very, very important that you are working with your enterprise IT team to make sure that you establish the right SLA, to make sure that the ERP will have an area or have a database where you can incorporate the data. And equally, this is the chance and the time and opportunity where you work with the IT team, the ERP team, to embed the AI and take it to the next level rather than having built it as a separate application. So this is really, really a crucial step that to bring the embed AI into the picture. So I just want to reiterate the importance of this step again. You can't, as a data science team, either when you have a center of excellence, you cannot do this alone. If you want to take your AI to the next level, if you want to have the embedded AI, you must work with your ERP team, your enterprise IT team to embed the AI into the system to remove all the friction and have a streamlined approach of the AI recommendation result. Now, with all of those things that I have just said, let's go to another example about the embedding AI and embedded AI again. And with a real use case. So as I say, embed AI would take to another level. And this is the use cases that we do it at the Engage AI. In the world of the B2B prospecting, by engaging on social media is a proven strategy. What that basically means is that when your prospects are posting, you want to be the first one to engage on their posts. And when you do it again and again and again, you will start getting their attention. They will start wondering who you are. So that you can then take that opportunity to start a conversation. It's a proven strategy on LinkedIn and many other social media platforms. The technique that we use here is generative AI and the large language model. Now, here is the example of AI versus the embedded AI. With ChatGPT, with free account, is very easy. All you have to do is to copy the content of the LinkedIn post, take it to the ChatGPT, you write some prompt, you may correct the prompt and ask it to write again. You would then copy the generated comment, go back to LinkedIn, and then subsequently post the comment. And then you may want to input your, you may want to update it a little bit and put your own touch, and then paste it, finally post the comment. This is AI. But how can we take it to another level, and how can we embed AI? How can we use the concept of embedded AI? At Engage AI, we certainly take this into to another level. We build a Chrome extension. As you can see, we embed ourselves right inside into LinkedIn. In this case, you will see that you will have option right at the bottom of the tone that you can choose. So all the user have to do is simply choose one of the tone that they want. Engage AI will then figure out exactly what the content is about, the LinkedIn post is about. It will then come out and craft a comment based on the tone that the user choose, and as well as the content of the LinkedIn post. It will also do it in any language of the post automatically. So you don't even have to tell what language is that. Now, because of this, it makes it so much easy for the user. And this is probably the reason why we have 50,000 users around the world using it without any paid advertisement. But this really is the concept of the embedded AI. This one thing that I want to highlight it here is very, very important to put the human in the loop as well, because you want to have the human to have certain say at the making the final decision at certain point until you are comfortable to automate the whole thing. In the case of Engage AI, we always encourage engage the human in the loop. Now, I hope that give you the the essence of the framework on how to build a generative AI application, and more importantly, how to build an embedded Engage AI. Before I go into the lesson learned, I'm super interested to hear your thought on that. So yeah, if that's okay, if you can run the question from the second poll question for me, that
Of course,
would
I
be
can.
really wonderful.
Absolutely. So here the second polls comes. And the question is, after learning about the framework and lessons discussed in this event, do you plan to explore or work on generative AI projects in the future?
Thank you, Yen.
Good. I'm going to give them some time to answer it.
Too easy. While we are waiting, let's dive into the lesson. What is really the lesson number one that we have learned from Engage AI, but also the implementation for our enterprise client?
Let me, in the meantime, show the results of the poll.
Thank you.
And the results are that 53% says I'm highly motivated to do so, and 47% says maybe, but I need more information.
Wonderful. By all means, reach out to me or Yen as well for extra information. Now, lesson number one is about integrating into the existing user workflow is crucial. And that's the reason why I share with you and try to introduce you the concept of the embedded AI. With the example that I share with you in the pricing optimization in the retail industry, but also what we have built in the Engage AI, you could see why embedded AI is such an important concept and why it ensures an uptick in the adoption. Simply because it reduces the friction. It reduces the cognitive loading of your front line. It reduces the cognitive loading of your user. By integrating into the existing workflow, it just makes it so much easier for them to understand and to adopt the recommendation. So really, number one, that I think the lesson that you should think about when you go on to implement your generative AI application is how can you integrate it into the existing user workflow rather than building it as a separate application and expect people to use a separate application. Number two, and this is where the very essence of the step number one of my 5-step framework. Identify a strong use cases that you know that these business use cases that you have identified is a painkiller. It solves a real pain point and be extremely clear that who you are serving. And in the case of Engage AI, I knew for a very long time that it is a problem and it is a strategy that people are using and myself are using. Equally, I know the challenges of coming with it by commenting on the LinkedIn post to get the attention. It's taxing of time, it's taxing of effort, it's taxing of energy, especially when I do not want to say something simple like thank you for sharing or great post. I want to say something beyond that. It takes time and energy. It takes probably about 5 minutes of time to read the entire LinkedIn post and another 5 minutes to come out something unique to say. So all of those, it means that to make a comment alone, it takes me about 10 minutes. And I knew many of the B2B business owner and also the BDM are feeling the pain across the world when they are adopting this strategy. So that is why I know it's a painkiller and it solves a real pain point. So again, this is really, really important that you and sometimes perhaps you may not know right up front. So you want to understand, you want to speak to your customer, you want to understand how upset they would be if your product doesn't exist. And that brings us to the lesson number 3. Speak with your user. Understand their needs may evolve and your application must be evolving in them. You must move fast. You must constantly speak with your end user. No matter how smart and how many PhD of your data scientist has got or the AI developer has got, what they envision, what they discuss in the corporate room in your headquarters is never as real, it's never as close as what the actually the end user are feeling and in understanding and using the result of the recommendation system or your AI system. So you must get your data scientist, you must get your AI developer to speak with your user to get the feedback from the end user. And with all of those things, that allows them to continue to innovate. So I just want to highlight that again. It's very, 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 very important to get feedback. Get as close as possible to the end user. If you are building that for the front line, send them to the retail store. Get them to see how exactly the front line are adopting the pricing optimization, are doing all of those work. If you are insurance company, send them to the call center, make them understand, listen to the phone call, make them understand how the support center, support consultant are supporting the customer. Make them understand how many applications the call center have to navigate and also the additional information they have to digest and why reducing the cognitive loading is so important when you want them to adopt the recommendation for your AI system. So these are the 3 lessons that I have found is super important from all the implementation we have done over the years. So you may ask where to embed the generative AI. Marketplace is a classic example. If when you are selling product on the marketplace, your end user, they have to write description. Writing description is very important to ensure that it appear in the search result. It appeal to the buyer. But writing description is actually very, very challenging. It's a lot of effort. It's a really a golden opportunity to implement the generative AI. Product search is a good opportunity with the vector database. Generative AI is also good for the customer service because there are so many unstructured data that you will see in the field of the customer services that you equally will see in the chat application and also the communication system. And likewise, if your application require the end user to write a lot of description or to write a lot of copywriting, generative AI is really, really powerful. Again, to make your generative AI to be super powerful, just want to highlight it's very important to embed and also incorporate your knowledge base and combine those 2 techniques together to make it powerful. And that is where the vector database is coming into the picture. Now, that is what I have got to share with you, and I hope you have found it very useful. But before we go to the end, I just want to recap. This is what I have shared with you. Before I start, I share with you the concept of AI versus the embedded AI. I share with you the example of the embedded AI and the 5-step framework of building an AI application and an embedded AI application. Step number 1, no matter how sexy the technology is, always identify a business use cases. Step number 2, extract, encode, and index your data for both structured and the unstructured data. Step number 3, search and retrieve the data for all the AI application. To make it more useful, you want to combine your structured and unstructured data into re-registry to make sure the data that you are going to the step 4 in terms of the search result will be relevant. And that being said, that brings us to the final step. Work with your ERP team to build the embed AI system and embed the AI right and all of those recommendations right into the ERP. Again, this is my 5-step framework. You can easily download it with from the webinar, I believe, and for you to take away and use it for your next project. So thank you very much. If you have any question, I am here to answer the question that you may have. However, if you want to connect with me, by all means, please scan the QR code or the link tree. You can connect me on LinkedIn. And I also have a surprise for you with the QR code. You can easily get a free account within the Engage AI. And hopefully with this free Engage AI, it will help you with the prospecting to get your next project, or if you are an employee, that help you with your next career move in expanding your network. Thank you very much again. And if you have a question, I am here to answer.
Good, great. Thank you so much, Jason, and a really insightful presentation. We have quite a number of questions coming in, so let me start moderating them one by one. I'm going to start with a question from Jamila, which I'm going to project on the screen right now. And it says, for attendees interested in entrepreneurship in the AI sector, what advice would you offer regarding identifying market needs, creating innovative solutions, and building successful businesses based on generative AI solutions?
That is really, really question. What advice would you give of identify the market? So I really think that is to start with the sector, to start with the people, to start in the industry that you are very familiar, because it's so much easier when you are already in that place. A lot of time you understand the problem and the challenges that you are facing, that they are facing. So with Engage AI, before I started Engage AI, I run a company, DDA Lab, where I provide data and AI consulting to enterprise. So for a long time, prospecting on LinkedIn was really one thing that I do, and it's still one thing that I continue to do at the DDA Lab. So I understand that was such a big challenge for people. So when I built Engage AI, I knew exactly what I wanted to build. I knew exactly what problem that I was solving for people. And that is why I know that was such a market need. So that is really number one example. Number two, that is going to sound controversial. I would argue that don't worry about building your own AI model. Don't worry about building your LLM model, because especially if you are SMB, you're not going to have the capital like those companies in the Silicon Valley to build your own AI model. Utilize the AI model, utilize the LLM model. The idea there is to excel on your user experience, build a new user interface where it really, really solves the problem for your user. And this again, I just want to bring in the embedded AI concept into the place again, why that is so important. So if you were to combine those two things together, I think you would have a better chance to succeed in that niche that you have. Once you have got enough users, let's say you are in the B2C industry, you have 30 million users. By that time, you want to build your own AI model, go for it. But don't worry about building your model for now.
Good. I think that's some very valuable advice. Let me go towards the next question. And the next question is saying, hi, Jason, what is your advice in addressing data security and potential risks for one company who wants to use data from public applications like LinkedIn, ChatGPT, etc.?
That is really, really good question. So I'm going to separate that two into two part of the external data, the public data, the public application, and also the potential risk. So the external data, like the LinkedIn, depending most of the data that you use, I probably would say that all of those external data, it would be safe. And of course, making sure that you have the permission from using those external data. But equally, I know that a lot of the LLM providers are having some policy in place to safeguard you in there. So I don't think that is a risk, but it's certainly highly, highly recommended that you get their permission if that is one of the key components to address these potential risks. In terms of the application like ChatGPT, so this is where the LLM coming into the place, right? So um, ChatGPT is a B2C product. If you use their API, it's a B2C product. Of course, that is the data security risk in place. And this is where, to resolve this problem, this is where you want to work with Microsoft to use the Azure OpenAI model, or for other companies like Google and a few other LLM provider, they have the enterprise version where your data are safeguarded, staying in place, where not only is not being used, is not being shared, is not being used to train the model, and this is where you can ensure that your internal data are safeguarded and uphold the data security. Great question.
I think that's an excellent question, or an excellent answer to a very good question. We have time for one more. Next one is for attendees who are novices in the field, what fundamental advice would you offer to help them get started with building generative AI applications, considering both technical as well as non-technical aspects?
Good question. If you are not technical, either find a technical co-founder, or perhaps go to the chat GPT and ask it to give you the code to build the application. You will be surprised how smart chat GPT it is to provide you the foundational code to build an application. Regardless how to speak, regardless of what all of that, I really think that the fundamental advice that I would say is whether you find someone or try to learn how to code yourself, the key is learn how to code. If you are really going to build a new application, focus on building the UI, building the user experience, rather than trying to build the underlying AI model. Because building the underlying model takes a lot of resources, both financial and the human resources. If you are just a small company, unless you get a lot of funding, you will not be able to compete with a well-funded. But if you understand the user and the pain that they have got, focus on that and code an application, build an application, learn how to code to build that experience for them, I really would say you are going to excel. Now, with all of that, say, building application, whether it's an AI or not AI application, is getting easier and easier these days. The hardest thing, to be honest with you, is actually marketing and the distribution channel. I would actually say before you even build any of the application, you want to start thinking about how exactly are you going to market your product and your application? How exactly you are going to get audience? How exactly what are the distribution channel that you can tap into to get the audience? I'll use Engage AI for example. We use so many techniques, growth hacking technique, where we tap into LinkedIn and also the Chrome web store to get those. And that is way, way more important. Marketing is actually way, way more important because building is so easy, but marketing is getting a lot harder and more expensive these days. So that is really my answer for you. Marketing and build marketing should take precedent.
Good. I think that's actually excellent advice because there's so many very great, how do you say, great products out there. But the difficult part is getting that across to others and dealing with those different products and providing them towards different markets. So I think that's a very important thing to note. Thanks so much for that.
No problem. Thank you so much once again. And if I don't have a chance in answering your question, by all means, connecting to me and send me your question. I'm more than happy to share with you. The PDF file is there. Please download. And I hope you enjoyed the rest of the event and the rest of the day. It's a great event that I always enjoy presenting, but also participating because there are so many great speakers that Yen has gathered to share with you. Thank you so much, Yen.
Thank you so much, Jason. It's an absolute pleasure having you again on Automation Days Asia. Good. We're going to go towards our next session next. And in our next upcoming session, I have Puneet Ganchani, who is the Chief Architect at Microsoft. And he is going to give us an in-depth overview around how do you transform automation with generative AI and conversational interfaces. So kind of building upon the story that Jason has just presented. Note that in the other session, on the other track, we still have the technical session going on with the programming exercises. And in track number 1 at 10 or at 11 o'clock, we will see Puneet presenting again on generative AI. Look forward to seeing all of you back in 10 minutes from now.